I'm getting a positive cash flow from there. My account is growing from there. So I can patiently wait for the A+ multi-day opportunities. Just 2 years ago, I hit my account bottom, 12K, and at that point I was down like 73% or something. It opened over 100% up of that, and from there we get to 300s, which basically like from the IPO price, it's probably like 1,000% or 900% up. Like on my algorithmic trading, I'm expecting over 1,000 trades per year. So it's a bit different kind of number.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Trading Takes, presented to you by Investors Underground. I'm your host, Sam, and tonight we've got another fantastic episode coming up. A story that will resonate with many of you. Jeppez didn't just build an account, he built resilience. He's traded through drawdowns that would have ended most careers, at one point seeing his equity curve down over 70%. But instead of walking away, he doubled down on process, refined his strategies, and rebuilt. Jeppez is proof that trading isn't a straight line. It's a journey through setbacks, review, breakthroughs, and constant improvement. Quite frankly, he is reaping the rewards now. I'm really excited for you to watch and listen to this conversation. Now let's get stuck into it with Jeppez. Please welcome to the show. I'm sure a face you all know by now. Jeppez, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. The summer is finally in Finland, and couldn't be happier.
I would say it's glorious. This is the first time I think I've ever had a guest on and they've been sat outside, and it looks incredible, I must say. And it must be what, like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening right now?
Yeah, 9 o'clock. So the kids are in bed. So now I have some time for some other stuff as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving up your time for sure. And I know you've got tons on the go at the moment. Now, there's lots we want to go through. You've had an absolutely monster year, and we're going to, stick around, viewers, because we're going to go into some depth about some of the trades that have made that year. When you last spoke to Anthony, you just made your first mil, I think, and then since then that trajectory has only just absolutely sped up.
Yeah, exactly, and that 1 mil milestone, I think it was around December last year, and I do have here kind of a monthly P&L view, and so I actually then December ended up as a red month, which is rare month for me. But also I had to then wire out for taxes, as in Finland, as an individual, you pay 1/3 of your profits as taxes. So basically I only started the year with 400K account, and now up over 2 mil on that.
That's just remarkable and absolutely incredible. And it's funny because I always think back to the time when you first burst onto the scene, and this was probably, it would have been 3 years ago now, I guess. I remember people actually taking bets on would you blow up and things like that. And I hope they did it in good spirit, and there was no menace or anything behind it. But you look back on that time, how do you feel this journey, just through these 3 years? It's just remarkable.
No, I think in the beginning the P&L curve was volatile, to say the least. So I had my fair share of drawdowns. So just 2 years ago, I hit my account bottom, 12K, and at that point I was down 73% or something on the account. And even after that, I've had a few 50 or 40% drawdowns on my trading equity. So that's, but I've always trusted my system. I know my stats, I know my setups, and I know that unless the world completely changes, those will print if I just follow those strategies.
Yeah, and if we could just flick back to your curve just for a brief second, because now, obviously zoomed out, but it is pretty smooth. I know obviously they're drawdowns, and I know you would.
Yeah, but it's
Open that
like
down.
when you look at it from percentage point of view, and like you might have like here in the first part of 24, now it looks small, but basically I went to a 50% drawdown, so I lost half of my account. So it's like now it looks small.
Yeah. And like so as part of like the process sort of from obviously in the past, well, this year, has that volatility smoothed out slightly? Are you still, I don't see you mentioned that you still do experience drawdowns. Are you able to limit those perhaps versus before, or is it still very much exactly the same system and just having full faith in it?
No, it's definitely smoother. Yes, I still have some drawdowns, but I would say from percentage point of view, they are getting smaller and smaller, and that's my kind of thinking, and that has always been my thinking. So in a way, with a smaller account, even if I blew up, I could have funded that by working. Now my account is so large that like if I blew that up, like that would be bad. Like it would take ages to completely cover that. So I'm really looking. I'm still continuing to push for growth, but at the same time, I'm aware of risk of ruin and trying to minimize risk of ruin moving forward.
Yeah, and how are you balancing that? Because I know obviously when we met in Miami, your goal isn't any small percentage at all. That's not your goal at all. So how are you balancing that with potential risk of ruin, etc., and obviously the risk management, to go with that?
Well, there are many ways to manage that. Of course, when I'm mainly shorting, so that is a much riskier business than going long. And generally, if you are, let's say, swing trading on the long side, you are risking really small on per trade. My strategies have higher win percentage, so I can risk a bit more from percentage point of view of my account. But at the same time, there are outlier cases where something holds up and it might gap up, I don't know, hundreds of percentages. So you need to be aware of that, and so you can't put too much as a position size. So how I'm now moving forward is I'm trying to add more and more strategies that are hopefully I'm looking into trying to find as uncorrelated strategies as possible. So that, for example, in the history, the different strategies haven't been in a drawdown at the same time.
Yeah.
So they more or less start to smooth out the curve, and I can still increase my gains by adding more strategies instead of only betting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I know we're going to come on to some of those strategies you've added to your playbook. I just wanted to touch on like throughout this period, obviously your confidence has remained extremely high. And trust in that system. What are the ingredients that have helped maintain that? Because I just look at it like you said, obviously you handled a big drawdown in the beginning, you've continued to do that, and just something that I just noticed on Twitter, for example, is people just complaining about there being outlier moves, etc. Like people joke about another max loss and things like that. But like you touched on, you've got a smooth curve, and despite there being setbacks. So how have you maintained the confidence in the system throughout that period?
No, because I've really built my strategies. I back tested those. I've gone through years of data on every instance that the setup has triggered. What should I expect as a average winners, average losers? How many of the trades are actually max losses? What kind of max losing streaks there have been in history, and so forth. So most of the volatility that is still coming, it's still within those same kind of volatility that has happened already before. Maybe it was the COVID year, maybe it was the year after that, or whichever. But I always go back to the data and look at the history has behaved in a certain way, and for most of my setups, it's pretty much the same kind of behavior still. Even though there are some changes, like maybe volume has been increasing in the past few years, maybe there is more range in the stocks or something, but in general terms, everything has been going pretty much the same. And at the same time, I am reviewing my setups performances every, let's say, 2 months at least. And if I start to see that a certain setup is, I don't know, 3 or 4 months in a row losing money, then maybe that will go on a pause, and maybe I'll revisit that half a year later. Is it now profitable? And or like, was it did the edge completely disappear, or was it just a temporary drawdown?
Yeah, and I'd imagine that brings around again another good degree of balance between over adjusting and then just realizing, like you said, like through the review, that actually it's just going through a short-term blip as opposed to there's no edge in this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at it from many different angles. So, like, for example, position sizing is one. I used to have like flat certain percentage for certain setups where I like put a certain amount of my whole account, let's say 10% of my account as a position size for a certain setup. The one challenge there is that if you go into a drawdown, then your position size goes lower. So I'm trying to have big enough position sizes for aggressive growth, but at the same time, not too big, so that if I go into a drawdown, I don't need to size down. So I can keep the same size, so I can recover faster from those drawdowns.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think like what's been particularly impressive this year is, I think back in the day, you were traditionally focused on small caps, but I think now that's branched out so much. And actually, from what I can tell from the outset, it seems like some of your biggest wins actually are some of these large caps moves. I don't know if you run CRCL comes to mind. Perhaps that's one that we could take a look at.
Yeah, I think that's a nice example. And so just scrolling, I think we can see the execution from this one post of mine. So this was the day that Circle topped at something like 298 or something, and from there I basically built quite a big position with equity as well as options, and got my biggest win so far, which was over 500k. And yeah, I actually took a few smaller losses on this one in the earlier days, but basically if we take a look at the day that it actually topped, what we have is quite a nice double top that we got. So I was patiently waiting for whatever happens, waiting for some kind of an A+ entry, and getting a double top at, well, 300 is there, and like the top was 289 and 298.99. So we're basically $1 from 300, which is always these round numbers. Offer some kind of specific price action. Maybe it rejects it, or maybe it has a strong breakout through it. But here, basically 2 times failing that, then I started to load up, and I was basically risking that 300 level, and went in quite heavy, because I can now risk just a few percent on the position. I would say less than 2% risk on the position, whatever I had. Whereas with my kind of regular short strategies, I might have wider stops.
Yeah, no, great notes. And just to touch on as well, like that setup into, coming into this day, just for our viewers, what was so appealing about it? Like what gets someone who's obviously, like I said, focused on, has got a system, small caps, etc. What turns your eyes to CRCL?
Yeah. So basically, we were simply up so much in such a short period. So this was a recent IPO. I don't even remember what was the actual IPO price. I think it was somewhere like
30 or something, I think.
Yeah, something like 30. So it opened over 100% above that, and from there we get to 300s, which basically like from the IPO price, it's probably like 1,000% or 900% up. So it's a big move on quite a large cap as well, a market cap. So it will be coming down. The question is like which will be the top day, what kind of rejection we'll get from there, what kind of fade we get from there. So I was basically then putting the biggest size here almost at 300 if we look at the daily. And my target was, I mentioned to a few of my trading buddies that like I have no hurry covering anything before we get to 10-day moving average, which is basically this line here. And that's what I did. So I basically held through all these moves. And on this day, when on the 27th of June, Friday, we basically flushed here and clearly below 200, we got to like 180, 185. There I basically covered the whole trade. So that's kind of few things I was looking at there.
Yeah, and just to touch on, like obviously, you like you said, this was a $500,000 trade. You've swung it. That looks like best part of a week by the looks of it. It looks 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, so entry was on Monday and the same week Friday.
Okay, so yeah, so obviously like you're sleeping on what's potentially your biggest unrealized. And obviously,
and if I look at the positions, I was basically almost leverage short on it.
Yeah, quite. I mean, but how, because just to touch on, because just the biggest thing and one of the biggest things that we always talk about is, you got to hold on to your winners, particularly when you get these fat pitches and these A+ setups. Like, what would you note to viewers to demonstrate that patience? Because it would have been pretty easy to be like, 300K, that's a pretty good trade. I'll take that. But
or even 100.
Even 100. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there are many trades where I give the kind of unrealized gains back, because if anything, I'm more on the patient side. I want to get those home runs. I want to get those big winners. And I think that's also something where I might struggle on the multi-day runners when trading those, because it's difficult to really find which is the final top day. And because so many times, if they've already ran, let's say 10 days, what's another day? So it might be that the top is not yet in. So there are also many times that I thought I nailed the top, and then I turn it into a loser by holding it too long. So I think it's about finding a balance, but it's what I've said to other traders that really struggle holding is to, if nothing else, then at least hold a partial. Like even if it's 10% of the original position, which probably is not meaningful anymore, but it's meaningful from getting the reps in and seeing how it behaves and like living through that.
Yeah, that's such sound advice, and that's something that like I discussed as well and said that like even something like scaling or pyramiding, like pyramid with if you struggle with that notion, do it with something small, get the reps, get the confidence, and then as that grows, it will only become easier. And just to add to that CRCL, there was also a massive move the following day when it really gave up. Was this something that you scaled into over that period of time, or were you content with your decent average and landed work?
I was in so heavy that if anything, I was considering that do I need to do I have enough buying power to swing it? That was more my question. So I was in quite heavy on that. So this time no pyramiding, and I rarely pyramid. maybe I should do that more, but then at the same time, then you have a worse average.
Yeah.
So if you actually get some reclaim, it's more difficult to hold that because your break even point is lower if you're short.
Yeah.
So I try to get the full size when I see the plus EV plus expected value spot to hit. Yes, I might hit some more on confirmation that this is it, but that's pretty much it. Like, I'm not usually adding anything on the following days or anything like that. It's, if anything, I start to cover and lock in some.
Yeah, and just taking that's a great point, and I think like this is actually a really good demonstration how that could hit your win rate as well, because like any aggressive scaling, you get that gap up 4 o'clock, which realistically I think like after that huge flush from 300 all the way down to 250, I think a lot of people thought that was it, done, and we weren't going to see any aggressive pops or anything like that. And I think that's a good example of, at midday, or was it 4 o'clock the next morning, it cleared out that 270 and then began to, is it after hours, or I remember it being quite aggressive at some point.
Yeah, in pre-market next day, it got basically to 280. Yeah, I wasn't that comfortable there. Like, my average ended up being just a little bit over that because I added a bit lower. But I think also, like, when I was swinging this and covering around the 180s, I was still thinking like, am I piking this? Because I was still thinking that we should at least get to this 150 area where we consolidated before this breakout.
Yeah.
And now looking retrospectively, like, the covers I made were perfect. It could have continued lower from there, but I was thinking that, like, that's pretty much enough. And I was already earlier talking to others and deciding on my end that, like, if we break through the 10-day moving average, that's where I should lock in most, if not all. And well, this time it seems we're actually getting some reclaim on that on the daily, and it's maybe breaking out a bit, or 2 days ago it broke up out and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I've been long this for 2 days actually, which has been quite a nice change. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, great point. And I think like we've seen that on a few occasions with, and like there's a lot of times we think this is a zero company, whatever. I'm not saying CRCL is, but like some of the quantum names, etc. And they do offer that fade, they do offer that extreme move down. But then there's that period of time where it's either chop or they grind back or whatever it is. I think it's a good testament to, like, particularly, I think, like, because it's again like that greed factor that humans can have is, you're up 500k, this could be my first million trade or whatever. So it's such that fine balance between, I need to cover some, and actually and all the emotions that we experience.
Yeah, and I think, like, what I've spoken to traders and the traders I know, usually the problem is the other. So it's taking those profits too quickly, locking it in. It's more rare to come across profitable traders who hold for too long.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, quite. No, absolutely. And this accounts for such a large percentage of this year, give or take 25%. And I think that's one thing I just want to, like, stress and fall back on. And I had a conversation with Jeff from SMB, one of the lead traders there, and he discussed how, like, improving your baseline trading in those standard day-to-day setups allows you to swing the bat really hard on these A+ opportunities. I just wondered, I'm guessing that you agree, but I just wondered if you could touch on that as well.
Yeah, and I think I posted earlier this year kind of my approach to this year, which is that I'm looking to have kind of my baseline trading as my system setups that I basically now even automized with algorithms, and just grind with those day to day. And because I'm getting a positive cash flow from there, my account is growing from there.
Yeah.
So I can patiently wait for the A plus multi-day opportunities, whether it's the circle or UNH or what have you. Just recently we had a Bitcoin breakout to new all-time highs. I can patiently wait those and only swing the bat when I really think that this is the place. I don't feel the FOMO because I have the basic system trades or algorithmic trades I have now on the side that are giving me that kind of steady growth, and then these ones hopefully then will lift me up to kind of next level every now and then.
Yeah, and I think it's worth stressing as well that I think that's great and such sound advice. And I think to add to that, they're not happening very frequently. We're talking about, we just named 3 opportunities, and I mean it actually is quite quick in terms of Circle. CRCL wasn't that long ago, UNH wasn't that long ago, and Bitcoin, but they aren't like daily occurrences.
Oh, it's maybe 1 or 2 opportunities a month.
Yeah, which is still monstrous, like you said, like in terms of moving that needle.
Yeah, at the same time, like on my algorithmic trading, I'm expecting over 1,000 trades per year. So it's a bit different kind of number.
Yeah, and I think that really conquers again another issue that I'm sure you can do in your chat. The traders is it's very difficult to have to do nothing. So having like something where you're so active, you are going to avoid that FOMO as well. I think it really is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and I did, like, before becoming profitable, I did swing trades the full year of 22, and there was a lot of sitting on my hands. The indices were going down, so it was not an environment for taking swing trades on the long side. So basically, maybe a 1 month break every now and then, and like it takes patience. So it's really good if you have something where you can grind it out kind of day to day, and then when the time comes, then focus on those A plus opportunities.
Yeah, see, I think that's such a good balance, and I remind myself that as well. Like in terms of like what I do on a day-to-day basis is typically focus on small caps. I'm typically short, but like if I look at all my biggest trades from the past couple of years, they're not in small caps, they're in large caps. It'll be like my biggest one this year is CRCL as well. Not as much as you, unfortunately, but I'm working on it. But like it shows you how much of an outlier opportunity it is when people are pivoting to it, and it like really goes back to what I think Lance describes perfectly in the broken slot machine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's with my algorithmic trades, I'm more trying to be the casino with high win rate, and then maybe every now and then someone walks in and gets a jackpot, and I have a bigger max loss. But I have a high win rate there, and I'm grinding out those wins. And then on the discretionary side, I try to find those broken slot machines.
Yeah, no, it's such great advice. And just want to quickly just really quiz you on, because I've just been magically impressed with how quickly you've found edge, how quickly you've stomached like what for a lot of people is huge risk, like in terms of you sized up massively for that CRCL trade, and whilst it's risk, I mean risk is in check, etc. But like in terms of how have you found sizing up so quickly, and how have you done it so well? How have you handled that?
On my system trade side, it kind of comes naturally, because even though I'm not purely putting a certain percentage of my account to the trades, it's something like that. So it's basically, if I double my accounts, if I don't double my position size, I at least almost double my position size. So it's kind of it's slowly, or with my growth maybe fast, but it's going with the account. And then when it comes to the discretionary trades, I'm more thinking in terms like how much I am willing to risk. So let's say if maybe I'm up for the month like 200 or 300k. So if there is like a once in a year opportunity, I might risk that whole month on that trade.
Yeah.
And if you risk 200k, you basically have, I don't know, you might have a 5 million position or 10 million position on it. So it's like I'm going from that perspective, like how much am I willing to risk? And then it goes back to like what's my expectancy of on the system trades where I make those kind of my basic profits. So maybe I'm giving back 1 week of profits or 2 weeks of profits if I lose on that one trade A plus opportunity. So I'm kind of balancing it from that perspective.
Yeah, and when you say it like that, it doesn't seem crazy at all. It seems very sensible, particularly like when we're discussing like these major ops. And I think as well, like it could go back to as well, like you put yourself in a great position where actually, if you did give back a month on a whole month, say, and you weren't able to wire out at the end of that month, it doesn't sound like it would make much difference.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's frustrating, of course, but in terms of like, there's still, you could still eat.
Yeah, and but at the same time, like if I would be already in a drawdown, then I wouldn't be comfortable risking a lot. So it's like it helps to be at all-time highs or close to all-time highs all the time, pushing the decent profitability. So you have something to risk, and maybe I lose like 200k, and maybe I go back 1 or 2 weeks in my overall profitability and equity growth.
Yeah, and I think again that's such sound advice, and I think it's very easy to forget that what we do on a day-to-day basis can really affect actually what we like, those monthly opportunities. And if we are in a good frame of mind, we're in a great place. Like you said, we're at all-time highs or close to, like our ability to perform and execute those is so major. And I think that's something that, maybe I was a little bit slow, to realize that actually, you've got to be in a really strong place to execute well and have those outlier moves that can really jump that account from, almost, you're jumping through levels, not just steps. There's a whole level there.
Yeah, exactly.
And just for any viewers out there, perhaps like just to go back to perhaps that slightly to scratch, there's probably a lot of people watching who perhaps don't have that consistency yet. They aren't thinking about sizing up. What advice would you have them there? I know this is probably going back it's going back a long way for you, but what advice would you have for anyone struggling with consistency?
One would need to understand, is that coming from not having an edge or not having the discipline to execute your edge? I think for many beginners, it might be both. I haven't found many losing traders that would have been able to prove to me that they actually have an edge. So in a way, I would always start from understanding, do I really have an edge? And for me, that comes from backtesting the setups in a way that it's like, it's kind of, well, bulletproof is maybe an overstatement, but it's some way to show that way of trading, that strategy actually is profitable or has been profitable in the history. Mm-hmm. It's more difficult for discretionary traders, because how can you say that like you are hitting maybe a certain kind of chart pattern with maybe you risk the lows of that like high tide flag or whatever it is. So how do you actually figure out like last 12 months, how many times that chart pattern has emerged in certain kind of your space? How can you actually backtest? I don't have an answer for that. I'm a system trader by heart. So in a way, for me, it's about pulling from whichever service it is, but pulling the historical data and actually looking like, what's the win percentage on this setup? What's the average winner? What's the average loser? Do I actually have an edge? Then if you are able to prove that you have an edge, then it's nothing else than execution with the assumption that you didn't overfit and like the setup doesn't work. But it's like if it has been working for, let's say, last 5 years, it probably will work for the next couple of months. So you should be profitable if the setup is consistently profitable.
And I think that again is such sound advice. And I think if I look back, I think turning to system trading, like you've just done it in completely the correct fashion. Started out system trading, and then on the side now you can start developing more discretionary trades. And I think, I don't know if maybe that was by design or complete accident, but you've done an excellent job at it.
Oh, but as I mentioned, like 2022, I actually swing traded. So I studied Christian Gullamäki, breakout setups, episodic pivots. I have quite a huge database of Gullamäki's streams and materials on OneNote. I studied that. I traded for one year. I put it on the side to focus on system trading, to find kind of a way to have consistent profitability through different market cycles. Mm-hmm. But now that that's done and I have that kind of income, then I can get back to that old expertise I built.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And you've touched on now you've developed well, now it sounds like you've got someone trading for you, which is incredible. I know it's I know it's a very sensitive subject, and because I always see it every time I see it, it winds me up when someone replies to you, "Can I buy your algo?" I'm like, why? Why would someone sell it?
Yeah, like my expectation currently is that in the next 12 months, purely with the algo trades, I should be making, unless like the market completely cools off, I should be able to make 8 figures. And like, sure, give me 30 to 50 million today and maybe I'll consider it. But it's like, otherwise, like, why would I? Like, it's I don't even need to do anything. The algo is taking the trades.
Yeah, and I think if you had a business making 10 million a year, you're not going to be able to buy it for $10 or whatever, right? It's going to be worth absolutely many multiples of that.
Yeah,
and I think like on this as well, like I think it's going to, and I think like you and several others are really going to make this quite a sexy subject, in that everyone's going to see your success. Everyone is going to want to replicate it. They're not going to be able to buy it. They're going to replicate it. Any tips for anyone starting out? And I think as well, just to stress that, like, there has to be a strong edge. You have to, like, you obviously manually did this. You were manually trading the system for well over a year before this process started.
Yeah. Basically, I started system trading in January 2023. And on the algo, I started to get like some test trades in May 2025. So for over 2 years, even though I had strategies that could be automated, I was still trading manually. And unless you have profitable strategies, like, there is no point of automation. Like, don't automate something that loses.
Yeah.
And the fact is that, like, if you end up trying to automate something, you need to have it fully quantifiable. You need to define it like really clearly. Like, there are many types of strategies and setups that are nearly impossible to automate, because you want to take into account so many nuances. Maybe you've gone through thousands of charts, different kind of catalysts, all that stuff, and you want to take all of that into account. Maybe take into account that now we have Trump as a president, and like, maybe, like, it's so many things that it's, for you to automate something, you need to be able to quantify it completely, and you need to know there is an edge. And in a way, the automation itself is not easy. There are, of course, all the time better and better tools coming for that, making it easier, and maybe AI will change the game in coming couple of years. But for now, it's difficult. So it's I would say for most, it's not a thing that they should pursue. But like they should be able to get really far by just quantifying their setups in that way and then trading them manually.
Yeah, I think that's so wise, and I think as well, like based if you have been successful, like you have been successful for a few years, then you have the resources as well to perhaps start that pursuit. But again, like it's one of those processes that many people just won't be ready for. And like, and it's, I always think like, it's a bit like when someone just, I always see, and Jack Kellogg's always said this, like when people just ask, he'll tweet something or share a chart or something, and someone asks, which broker do you use? And it feels a little bit like that. It's like, yeah, you're probably not ready for this level of information, like the level of information you require. You're just not quite there yet. So, yeah, no, I mean, definitely tempered. And I think that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to discuss. So, I mean, I got to finish on the important question. We obviously played golf in Miami earlier in the year. You beat me in Lance. But how's your golf game going?
I hope it will be better in a year's time now that I have the algo and I can actually train. So it's like the beginning part of this year still has been manual trading. So it has been taking some time, and I've been also traveling and meeting other traders and stuff like that. So I haven't been able to put enough time there, but next year that will be the year.
And yeah, and that very much sounds like that's going to be one of the goals and the byproducts of the algo is you're going to play more and you want to play as competitively as possible.
Yeah, and I think like that goes back to like why did I go for algo trading, and it's basically for trading. The main goal with trading has always been for me to gain financial independence and freedom for myself and my family, so that we can do the things we want to do and spend time together, travel, do sports, whatever it is. And if I just sit 8 hours at the screens, like, yeah, maybe I make more money than in my 9 to 5, but like I didn't get anywhere. So it's like I'm always looking to minimize screen time, and so basically trying to maximize the profits per hour spent at the screens.
Yeah, again, that's so wise and so valuable. And it is always a reminder of why we get into this as well. I mean, the funny thing is, I reckon you're saying you haven't played much, and you probably still hit a load of balls most days, I would imagine. I know you've got a sim and everything, so I'm sure you're still getting the practice in.
Yeah, for sure. Some.
So it sounds like me and Lance are going to get beat again, although I'm improving slightly. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think there's so many valuable lessons. It's great. It's been really great to see how you've developed as well over time. And I think like it's a real lesson in having a core model that you trade on a day-to-day basis, but then like being really prepared for those A+ setups that can really move the needle. So thank you so much for your time.
Maybe last words of I don't know, maybe whether it's wisdom or something. At least like what I have had on my wall, my office wall, written for 2 years, or actually 3 years, I think. Like it was already before system trading. I have 2 sentences: simplicity is an edge, and tuning out the noise is an edge.
Yeah. And on that note, I think we wrap it up. Just lastly, where can people find you?
On X, that's pretty much where I have most presence. So that's Jeppez 420, and that's pretty much it. So I just hope you as well enjoy some golf, and for all the viewers, good trading.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm definitely going to enjoy some golf, and I love how you've ended that as well. Simplicity is an edge. Block out the noise, which I think is so massive. And yeah, thank you again for your time. Thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and please leave a comment as well. Happy trading, everyone. Thank you, Jeppez.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Trading Takes. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please check out some of others with some great traders. Thank you for watching.